And trust me, I say this with all humor, if American democracy can survive 10 years of Greta Thunberg scolding, you guys can survive a few months of Elon Musk.
Evening, people. I'll be right with you in just a couple of moments. Just bear with. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute or two. I'll be right back. Thanks for joining me tonight. This is the Brews at 10 on My Left Eye. I'm your host, Lefty. You're all very welcome. Show's about to start in just a moment. Alright people, here I am, thanks for your patience. I just had to finish making my cup of Solidari-Tea because it wouldn't be the Brews at 10 without a hot tasty beverage as an accompaniment. How y'all doing tonight? Thanks for joining me. Floor Snake, The Truth, Andy Carter, great to see you in the chat, Morbius as well. Chris, great to see you as well. A lot of familiar faces, the good old Brew crew in attendance here tonight as we kick off another week with the Brews at 10 on My Left Eye. How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, they're them some comrades alike? Let me know in the chat. Let us know how you're doing in the comments if you're watching back on a replay. But please do make sure that you've hit thumbs up on the stream, give us a bit of a boost. And feel free to give us a follow and a share on your social media. Blue Sky being the current main focus of social media, also on Mastodon, still on Twitter, but hopefully in a short amount of time fully moving across to Blue Sky, so give us a follow. So let's see what you're all up to. Mobius, you've just had some excellent homemade food, but not Stormzy related. Yes, Stormzy, the sellout. I was going to bring that up on the stream tonight, but you've pretty much just prompted that there in the chat. I couldn't believe it. I think I'll just use that opportunity to talk a little bit about this while we do the intro. Not too much to the story, of course. I was going down the road last week, can't remember what specific day. And do you know the advertisements that they put on the end of bus stops? I was walking past one of those. And it takes quite a bit to stop me in my tracks when I'm walking. But I could not believe my eyes. And I thought, surely this is some sort of appropriation. It can't actually mean the Stormzy, who I knew as a notorious critic of corporations and also a supporter of social justice and Palestine as well. But no, it appears, alas, he's sold out to a famous burger chain, McDonald's. I'll name names on this occasion. I don't care. Yeah, I can't believe that. I can't believe that. McDonald's, of course, being part of the boycott, divest and sanction movements. People avoiding McDonald's because they provide the Israel army with free meals. Terrible. Terribly disappointing, wasn't it? Yeah, so much to talk about tonight. As well as that, there's been a lot going on. It's all about talks and conferences and meetings, and that's the main bulk of a lot of the news that I'm going to be going through today. So meetings over the future of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. There was the JD Vance appearance at the conference in Munich, where he also took the opportunity to cozy up to the far-right AfD. You might have spotted JD Vance in that little clip I put together at the start of the show. Also meetings in Saudi Arabia for Trump as well. Meetings all over the place. Mobius, thank you very much for the gifted membership there. Solidari-Tea. Great stuff, you legend. And it does appear to have worked. Certified. And that does, of course, prompt me as well to give a customary thank you to all of the members on the channel. That list will be updated, of course, after the stream. If you'd like to join this list of incredible, amazing supporters of the channel, it's just 99 pence. Please do check out some of the perks. Thanks also Andy Carter for the gifted membership and celebrating 8 months of membership yourself. Thanks for being with us here on My Left Eye. 8 months, fantastic stuff. Great to see the community expanding and growing as we get ever further into the 21st century dystopia. So yeah, it's been great to have you for the last 8 months, Andy. Solidari-Tea, brother. Any live updates on the current tea situation over your way, Andy? Ben, thanks for joining us tonight for this live stream. Welcome to the Brews at 10. Solidari-Tea, brother. And we do like to throw a lot of tea-based puns in here on the Brews at 10. So feel free. I'm going to bring you good people up in the on the screen, I should say now. Just make some room for you amazing people, so here you are. There we are, great to see everybody. Thanks for the update on the tea there, Andy. Whatever you're drinking this evening, you're all welcome. Occasionally some people treat themselves to biscuit and cake as we go through as well. Or homemade burgers in Mobius's case. So what else has been going on? What will we be discussing? What else have we got? Climate stuff, obviously. Do like to keep up with climate issues as well as climate protests here on my left eye. There's been more flooding in the US, in California, and this comes ironically at the same time as Trump's ramping home his drill baby drill pledge. So a bit of a look at that. UK stuff as well. Rachel Reeves. Been caught out lying on a CV recently. A bit of discussion about that. As well as housing, and also Starmer claims to have achieved one of his pledges. Don't all faint at once. He's actually claiming to have done something he said he was going to do in his manifesto. Hedy, great to see you in the chat also. How you doing? But I'll be having a look at that claim that he's added 2 million extra appointments to the NHS. Massive asterisk, massive footnote required there, people. And of course the ongoing situation in the Middle East, as well as between Ukraine and Russia, which has been in the headlines a lot today as well. Igala Deville, great to see you once more. Excuse me. Sorbet. Sorbet. Nice. Hope you're enjoying the Solidari speckled hen there, Floor Snake. Starmer's certainly lying through his tea. Andy, yeah, nice one. Spoiler alert, where the 2 million appointments are concerned, it's Tory accounting, shall we say, the old marking their own homework. I've got a comedy clip to kick us off with in just a moment as well. So it seems like you're all doing pretty well tonight, whatever you're drinking. Tea, sorbets, speckled hen. Von Nakarizer, great to see you. Yeah, Floor Snake, another plane's gone down. There was one yesterday in America, the one today was in Canada, in Toronto. I think it seems from the footage I looked at earlier to have flipped over on its back. It's gone belly up. Crazy. Of course, in America, they're just firing control, air traffic control stuff like there's no tomorrow, and then wondering why all these planes are crashing. Part of Trump's move against DEI. And to nobody's shock, the airlines have struggled to replace people in those positions. I think we're seeing a chain of evidence here, people. Could there be some positive correlation there? Methinks so, perhaps. Yeah, just quickly want to say apologies for yesterday. I couldn't bring you the Sunday live stream. Had what was supposed to be an errand that would take an hour turn into about 2.5 hours, unfortunately. I would have loved to have been here with you people instead of getting messed around as I was. I won't go into any details, but apologies about that. Red F, great to see you as well. Okay, we'll kick off with something light-hearted, as I do always try to do. It's another great one from Broken News. They have been on fire recently. There's been some great stuff out there, and Broken News is right up there with it as well, especially. So yeah, enjoy. Give Larry and Paul a follow. That's the channel title, Larry and Paul. They are on YouTube and social media as well. This is the Broken News.
Welcome to Broken News. The United States of America is set to crown its first king after 250 years as a republic. The move to a monarchy comes as the American people voted overwhelmingly last year to reject democracy. Let's cross live to our royal reporter who's having a rare trip overseas. Swickles, a seismic moment in American history.
That's right, Sita, and it's a glorious day here in Washington, D.C. The excitement in the air is electric, as if a baby had been lobbed on a pylon, and it will be here where history will be made. King Elon I will be crowned. It's set to be an historic celebration with thousands of mandated onlookers in attendance, most of them big-titted Russian bots, along with the now Prime Minister of the USA, Donald J. Trump, who, along with millions of Republicans, is suddenly very interested in taking a knee in deference to an African.
Swickles, this is quite a significant constitutional change, isn't it?
You're quite right. The coronation of a monarch marks a dramatic departure for this nation, which for years had railed against the idea of an unelected head of state, but now has presumably realised it had it quite good under Mad King George. In the last few hours, joined by his son and heir on his shoulders, the King Regent laid out his plans just behind me here in the Oval Office. As his first act, His Royal Highness of Kindness, Imperial Dweeb-to-be and Sovereign Autist will hand out royal warrants for Tesla, SpaceX and Washington's finest ket.
All sounds above board to me, Swickles. Of course, there's never been such an event in all of American history. Do we have any ideas what Coronation Day will look like?
Well, we know that King Elon will take part in ceremonies based on ancient British traditions. He'll be handed a magic golden crown. His massive expanse of a forehead will be anointed with the creamy essence of the leader of the Proud Boys, and Penny Mordaunt will carry a sword for hours. We don't know why, but it is a niche reference for fans of British politics.
How have Americans been responding to this tremendous change?
Well, Democrats have promised to stand outside here with flags shouting angrily while their leaders just stand around letting it all happen. And as for Republican voters, I asked some of them if they were worried about having an African man in charge of America. All of them were furious about it until they realised I wasn't talking about Barack Obama. And after that, they were fine with it. Back to you.
Our royal correspondent Swickles Nichol live there in Washington. Thank you. What a lovely story. That's all from Broken News. you're up to date.
Majesty, complicity, inevitability. Celebrate the glorious coronation of King Elon I with this stunning limited edition commemorative plate, the perfect memento of this momentous moment. Available now for only 99 monthly payments of $49.99. But wait, there's more. Order now and get this incredibly lifelike tempered bronze statuette of the majestic King Elon throwing his heart out to the people of America and the world. Get yours today and be a part of history, along with the United States of America.
Very good. Excellent from Laurie and Paul. Please do check them out and subscribe and all that jazz. Broken news there. Yeah, that was good, the bit about the African in charge. Graham Turner, great to see you as well. And Ian McKenna, thanks for joining us tonight. Odin Allfather, ahoy ahoy. Very good. It's true though, isn't it? It's just an autocracy now. He said he was going to be a dictator from day one. And Trump has actually followed through on that. Ian McKenna, can I imagine how quickly Elon would get knocked out at an English pub? I don't know, but I'd like to find out. Yes, so Trump thinks that he can broker peace between Ukraine and Russia, the same as he thinks he can broker peace between Hamas and Israel. The last time he had a dab at ending a conflict, it was Afghanistan that was concerned, and I noticed someone in the chat mentioning a documentary with someone clinging to the landing gear of a plane. And of course, as a swathe of vehicles, US vehicles and planes were leaving Afghanistan, we saw those famous pictures of people clinging to, and I still can't believe it to this day. Every time I see it, it's almost impossible to think that that's not an AI video, that that's not a CGI clip, but that was real, and it might not be the last time in history that something like that might happen while Trump's at the wheel of the United States of America, shall we say. That's my reservation, at least, anyway. Hedy, thank you so much for those 5 gifted memberships. Solidari-Tea for that, brother. Hope you all enjoy your perks. Thanks again. Another Brew Crew legend. Very pleased to see that, knock wood, that issue seems to have resolved itself with the gifted memberships, so thanks once again, Hedy. I'll look forward to adding those names to the list after tonight's live stream. So whether it's people being killed trying to cling to aircraft as they hurtle down a runway and take off, or by whatever means, things are coming. Things are on the horizon, people. Now, he said before the election that he was going to get Zelensky and Putin in a room and get the whole thing over within 24 hours. That's turned out not to be the case. He's going to be meeting with Zelensky and Putin separately. Putin in Saudi Arabia, which I'm going to go into with an article in just a moment. But for now, if anything, Zelensky's been getting the cold shoulder from Trump. He seems to be very open about how close he is to Putin. At best, you'd have to say he's a great admirer of his. He seems to think that he can get Russia to concede territory and other such things. If you want to see this as a big sort of global military-industrial complex sort of mob racket, if you dare go there, then you could say that the shakedown, where Zelensky's concerned, is that Trump, for protection in this racketeering military-industrial complex scenario, would be 50% of the mineral reserves, which account for quite a large portion of Ukraine's GDP. They have a vast wealth of mineral resources in the country. Mobius, thanks a lot for the gifted membership as well. Solidari-Tea to that. Raising a cup to you right now. Thanks again. Another awesome, legendary member of the Brew crew. So that was Trump's initial offer on the table, and Zelensky's turned his nose up at that. In the clips I've seen of him recently, he's probably had his nose down on certain surfaces as well, judging by the look and the sounds of him. But he's rejected that offer. He also appears to have offered Putin concessions over territory without consulting Zelensky, which is ridiculous. James Holmes, thanks for joining us on board with a membership as well. Great to have you with us. Thanks a lot for that. I'll add your name to the roster that I put up earlier. Thanks again. So Trump's gone directly to his main ally or bargaining partner in this scenario first, very promptly, in Saudi Arabia. Let's just see what's happening there. I've got an article here. Yes, Saudis. But why? But why Saudi Arabia? Let's just have a quick flick through this article, see what's happening, people. So this is from the BBC today. They say underscores how far the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has come diplomatically from the near pariah state it became after the murder of a Saudi journalist in 2018, Jamal Khashoggi. The shadow that cast over the country and its de facto leader, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, in particular, appears to have lifted, although there are still concerns occasionally raised at international forums over Saudi Arabia's human rights record. Of course, they still have capital punishment, notoriously homophobic, etc. I'm talking about Saudi Arabia, not Donald Trump, of course, just in case you get confused. But it says diplomatically the Saudi leadership has also been enhancing its role during the Biden years. The kingdom increased its pivots away from reliance on the US as a key international ally. But the return of Donald Trump to the White House will of course be welcomed by the Saudis, as the article points out, and they were quick to announce their definitive rejection of Trump's plan for Gaza, i.e. to remove all Palestinians and rebuild it as a resort. That would of course be ethnic cleansing, as we've discussed a few times on the channel now. Probably not a great start to the negotiations, but it's spurred the kingdom to try to come up with a workable alternative plan with other Arab states, which would see Gazans remain in place as the enclave is rebuilt and would lead to a two-state solution of the conflict. That's a good way of putting it, Andy. Just where the Ukraine's concerned, of course, Putin will be meeting Trump as well in Saudi Arabia. It's believed that he'll be meeting Zelensky in Munich, where JD Vance was last week. A little bit more about that later. But they certainly seem to have gone out the frying pan and into the fire. Of course, Trump's predecessor Biden was a staunch supporter of Zelensky. I believe so far, in terms of actual dollars, 120 billion has been donated by the United States. However, the US don't actually lead the table in terms of percentage of GDP where support for Ukraine's concerned. The midway down the table, it's around 2% at the moment, similar to the UK. Starmer, of course, pledged billions per year in perpetuity for the next century, while he's freezing pensioners to death here in the UK. And today, he's made a pledge to put UK troops on the apparent front lines of this conflict, and he made quite a hyperbolic statement earlier today as well concerning the security of Europe overall. I'll come on to that in just a moment. So with this, and as I said, Putin apparently set to meet Trump in Saudi Arabia. It looks as though they're trying to put themselves back on the diplomatic international stage. That's the main point here. They want to be back in the game. Admittedly, they do have an atrocious human rights record, for one. But I don't think Trump's got any shame at all in who he rubs shoulders with, shakes hands with, where he's trying to achieve his ambitions, whatever they may or may not be. And everyone, just seems to be falling over themselves to go to war, as much as the word peace is being thrown around. A lot of people are making a lot of money from these conflicts, and there certainly is a conflict of interest. It's easier to get rich quick from war than it is from peace. Let's just put it that way. Unfortunately, I'm not celebrating that fact, I'm just saying it like it is. From my left eye's perspective. A lot of people are wising up now to Trump as well as Musk. So many people who voted for him are actually, of course, no one voted for Musk. But they're quickly realising that they got duped. They regret it, but it's unfortunately too late for everybody globally. And I've got a clip of something from the news in the States in just a moment. In fact, yeah, I'll go to that now. And then just on to a couple of other Trump-related matters. It is turning into a bit of a mini episode of Trump and Musk batshit crazy corner here. But this is from a former chair of the RNC, Michael Steele. As I said, over in the States, I think this is on MSNBC. I think I've got the initials, the acronym correct there. And he lets fly. He doesn't hold quarter in what he thinks about Trump and the people who've elected him, as well as how people are waking up. By the way, I should point out it's President's Day today, almost ironically. And there have been protests in Washington as well, outside the White House and things like that. Not my president signs, this kind of thing. So all this taking place on President's Day. But this is what Michael Steele thinks about the current president, Donald J. Trump.
What are what would you have us do?
I would actually, you know what? I'd just like you to show that you give a damn, that you got a little emotion about the fact that people are losing their jobs indiscriminately. That this individual sitting down the 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue has given absolute power to one man who brings his son into the Oval Office, whose son says to him, "You're not the president. You shouldn't be in that chair." Now, where did he get that from? He got it from his daddy, because that's what his daddy thinks of the man who brought him into the Oval Office. So I just like to see somebody wake the hell up and get excited about the fact that your country is under assault. They're not at the gate anymore. They're in your bedrooms. They're in your living rooms. They're in your businesses. They got your data, dumbass. They got all your stuff. Elon Musk has his tentacles in everything you're doing, not just off of X, but now he's in the Treasury Department. He's in the Labor Department. He's in the Department of Homeland Security. And nobody seems to give a damn. So that's all I want, somebody to show that they care enough to get off their fat ass and say something about it.
Yes, well said that, man. Oh, yeah. I think people need to let off a bit more like that. I mean, you can see that was 6:32, whether it's AM or PM. Doesn't matter. Don't normally throw that kind of stuff around on mainstream media, but he's absolutely right. And of course, Musk absolutely crashed that Oval Office press conference with his son. And we talked on the last live stream about X, as he's called. Little X, Lil X, whatever his bloody name is. Going over to Trump and saying, I want you to shush your mouth. And as Michael Steele pointed out there, saying you're not the president. And he's obviously just parroting what he's been told by his dad. So well said there, Michael Steele. I'll get on to what Starmer said about the Ukraine-Russia conflict in just a moment, just while we are on the subject of Trump and talk about news stateside. Just quickly on Trump's clarion call of drill baby drill, how that is currently affecting other countries. And then, of course, again, without a hint of irony, this happening at the same time as these massive landslides and floods in California, just after they've had a series of wildfires just weeks ago. We were reporting on that. So let's see what's happening, people. The UN Climate Summit in United Arab Emirates in 2023 ended with a call, of course, to transition away from fossil fuels. It was applauded as a historic milestone in global climate action. Since then, we have, of course, globally gone over the 1.5 degrees centigrade average temperature rise, that benchmark, that unpassable margin that we set ourselves. And barely a year later, there are fears that the global commitment may be losing momentum. The article says as growth of clean energy transition is slowing down while burning of fossil fuels continues to rise. And now there is US President Donald Trump's national energy emergency, that's a quote, embracing fossil fuels and ditching clean energy policies. That's also begun to influence some countries and energy companies already. In response to the drill baby drill slogan aimed at ramping up fossil fuel extraction, the US notified the United Nations of its withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement. Indonesia, for instance, has hinted that it may follow suit. As you can see there, that's the question that they're asking. If the US isn't doing it, then why should we? I don't think that's a valid argument, you know. Would you jump off a bridge if America did? As the old saying goes. And if America are going to pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement, if they are going to drill baby drill, whilst refusing to transition over to renewables, then that just means that other countries have to act even stronger against CO2 emissions, really get a massive reduction to compensate, because this has got to happen. We're talking about the future of humanity itself here, people. We can't just be so dismissive as Indonesia appear to be, and so, oh well, America aren't doing it, so why not bother? This has got to happen. It's got to happen, and every country has got to do everything it can. It's no good pointing at America or China or other countries, because you're represented by your own government. As a protester and activist myself, and supporter of Just Stop Oil, people often say to me, why don't you go and protest in China? Why don't you go and protest in America? The very simple answer is, those governments don't represent me. I want my government to do something. And the American and Chinese government wouldn't listen to me if I went over there to protest any more than people would tolerate Americans coming to our country and telling us what to do. Like Elon Musk, for example. Well, South African. Excuse me. But you see what I'm getting at. Yeah, I'm not represented by the US government or by the Chinese government. I'm represented by the governments of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, so that's where I shall protest. So that's obviously on a practical level, on a legal level, on a moral level, of course. We all want to be on the right side of history. And whatever we do or don't achieve in terms of climate targets, we should at least all be able to say that we did our part. So this certainly seems to have shifted the Overton window a little. China, by the way, whilst massively increasing coal production and fossil fuel production, they've also gone the same way with renewables, and they are in fact by far the largest suppliers of wind power, for example, in the world. Speaking of all over the world, Trump has also said he'll export American energy all over the world. Potential foreign buyers, according to this article, are already lining up. India and the US have agreed to significantly increase the supply of American oil and gas to the Indian market. A few days after Trump's inauguration, South Korea, which is the world's third largest liquefied natural gas importer, has hinted its intention to buy more American oil and gas, aimed at reducing a trade surplus. Excuse me. I need another sip of tea. What was that? A trade surplus with the United States and improving energy security, international media reported from Seoul. So he doesn't care. He just wants to make a quick buck. Of course, he's a climate change skeptic himself. Not that you can be. He's a denier. Denial isn't just a river in Egypt, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. They're thems and comrades alike. But just finally, scientists have said there can be no new fossil fuel extraction, and there needs to be a rapid reduction of carbon emissions around 45% by 2030, and that's from the 2019 level if we're going to stay under 1.5 Celsius. That's gone though, that's gone. But every fraction of a degree is important. in terms of ecosystems, weather systems, you name it. We're seeing all these extreme weather events in increasing frequency and intensity, one of which I'm going to go on to in just a moment. But David Brown, the Director of Energy Transition Practice at Wood Mackenzie, says the economics of energy supply are a key driver of decarbonisation. The resource base of US energy supports the role of natural gas and liquids production. By contrast, import-dependent economies such as China, India and those in the southeast of Asia have a dramatic economic incentive to decarbonise sources of energy. And the global energy transition investment surpassed $2 trillion for the first time last year, but studies have also shown that the growth of clean energy transition has markedly slowed in recent years while major banks continue to finance fossil fuels. And they certainly do. There's a lot of dirty money out there as well. Tax breaks, subsidies to the tune of hundreds of millions a week. And at the same time, uh, 10 people have been killed in the latest extreme weather event over in the US. Floods, landslides, heavy rain. That's the most brain-numbing thing about all this. It's happening right here in front of our very eyes. This is just the start. This is just the beginning. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear says 9 people have died in his state. About 1,000 people stranded in floodwaters had to be rescued. The other death over the weekend was in Georgia, where a man lying in his bed was struck by an uprooted tree that crashed into his home. Hundreds of thousands of homes without power. 6 inches of rain, resulting in widespread flooding. Among those who died in the state were a mother and her 7-year-old child and a 73-year-old man. Trump approved the declaration of emergency federal funding on Sunday, authorising FEMA, which he's suggested abolishing to coordinate disaster relief efforts. You can see some of the scenes of flooding there. And it just shows the level of pig-headedness, the ignorance to the situation, and how they really just can't address the elephant in the room. Immigration is going to be another massive factor in the coming decades. If people like Trump, who's clearly anti-immigration, thinks things are bad at the moment, and he wants to point fingers at Mexico and Canada, then just wait until the more extreme elements of climate change come. We're going to see, globally, refugees numbering the hundreds of millions and billions. You could be talking about 1 in 8, 1 in 7, perhaps even 1 in 6 people on the planet being killed or displaced. That's a massive proportion. So those pictures are from Clarksville in Tennessee. Not not going to do a joke about taking the last train there because the lines are probably flooded anyway. Bit of gallows humour there. Good point there, RC Pilot, and great to see you in the chat there as well. Yeah, people in the UK, we could end up as climate refugees ourselves. The fluctuations of the polar vortices, for example, the vortex around the North Pole. It's very difficult for me to describe this without a picture, but essentially it increases the oscillation. Instead of it being sort of a smooth circle, as it were, you're going to see these peaks and troughs as it oscillates around, with warmer air rising a lot further north than it would do, and cold air falling a lot further south than it would normally do. If you can picture a sort of sound wave, for example, so it would change from being a flat line to an oscillating wave, and that's what brings the extreme weather. It's why parts of Europe could be plunged into freezing temperatures, while other areas experience a lot warmer temperatures than normal. Got so many systems on top of systems. Things are going to get so chaotic. Yeah, drill baby drill, that's all he's got to say. I'm not sure if it is the home of Superman, Andy. Where's he when you need him? You know, I mean, come on. Didn't he, he turned a tornado upside down or something in one of the films, didn't he? I remember that. I can't remember where that was supposed to be. Okay, moving on, people. What else have we got on the agenda? Still got so much to get through. Just see what I've got lined up. What should we have next? What should we have next? I'll try and segue this in with the Ukraine stuff. Starmer's thrown in his 2 cents. Oh yes. Big Bad Keith to the rescue. I've got a bookmark here. Just a little bit of what he said on the TV earlier. So he wants the UK to send troops to Ukraine. He's also said that he wants the UK to act as a bridge between Trump and the so-called peace talks with Putin. Just get this clip lined up one sec. But I'll tell you something, people, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, their thems and comrades alike. If there's one thing I know about bridges, they get walked all over. So I noticed this on Blue Sky earlier. Just bookmark this. He says it's a once-in-a-generation moment for the collective security of our continent. Let's see what's happening. Just try and play this clip. Just refresh the page there. It's having a bit of a wobble. Peter Stefanovic, by the way, is from the Communications Workers Union. I don't know why the sound's coming up, but not the video for some reason. Yeah, don't know what's happening there. But briefly, it was mostly hyperbolic, a bit of scaremongering. Just bring the background music back in. And essentially, he's trying to say that if we don't do this, then Putin's going to sweep across all of Europe. That's his excuse for there being a bottomless pit of money when it comes to war, but nothing when it comes to helping out the poor, ordinary working people, the disabled, pensioners. Obviously, it goes without saying that Putin has his eyes on Ukraine and has previously annexed Crimea, but to try and suggest that he's going to try to go further than that and take over all of Europe, I think he's just trying to basically kiss Trump's backside. Yeah, this tough guy act he's putting on. Do you remember? Oh, it was years ago now. I can't remember what year exactly. Soon after he became leader of the opposition, that clip was going around of him at the boxing club or a gym, feebly having out a punch bag. Yeah, these punches. And I guess it's kind of like that on a scale of international diplomacy. But he insists that the United States have got to be a backstop, so it's pretty much, you know, I'll get my big cousin on you or whatever. That's what he's thinking is going to happen. But he's trying to sort of get other EU countries to follow suit, is the thing. Some people have called for the creation of a European Union army. That's not something I'd approve of. We certainly need peace negotiations. This should have ended around a table a long time ago. A lot of lives have been lost. A lot of money has been spent. Bird's Nest Rapfest, great to see you in the chat. So even though negotiations haven't concluded or barely begun yet, Starmer suggests that if there is a cessation of the conflict, then essentially we have to throw a load of troops into the Ukraine. We'd be backed up by the United States of America, and he's trying to turn to other countries in Europe and say, you come along as well. Some German politicians have been saying they want to increase the percentage of GDP that's donated to the Ukraine, currently around 2%. Some calling for that to go up to 3 or 3.5%. Actually, I might just take a look at some of the comments. That is on this Blue Sky post. Because essentially, when you're saying you're committing your country's troops to fight another country's troops, that's almost as good as a declaration of war without actually declaring it. Now, obviously, we've financially backed the Ukraine, but there haven't been any UK troops fighting on the front line up until now. Now, obviously, we're already in the periphery of Putin's vision, where his opponents are concerned, or enemies, as he would see them. But if UK troops were to actually go to Ukraine, then I think that's even further just drawing a massive target on our back. Now, many times people have claimed that, excuse me, Putin is an unhinged maniac. But it seems that Starmer's happy to directly provoke him, at least, by suggesting that UK troops should go to Ukraine. But surely that puts us directly in the conflict. That's as good as declaring war without declaring war, because let's be honest, that doesn't really happen anymore. Just back to where Trump's concerned, of course, he wants to assist Putin. If anything, he's certainly going to side with Putin where the bargaining's concerned. And he's going to just absolutely railroad Zelensky, chuck him under a bus. Because he really hates the European Union that much, whether he feels threatened by them, whether he feels that the US is threatened by the strength of the European Union. He just doesn't like them. And I think part of his friendship with Putin is Trump's efforts to undermine the EU. Let's see what he's saying in the comments. Yeah, RC Pilot, I think Putin will be laughing right now. And in fact, I saw a clip from Russian state TV earlier. A big picture of Zelensky. And just essentially, you know, it's over. He's lost. Basically, massive cries of victory coming from Russian state media. But Flostate, you think that we should have some kind of European military? In case the Hague Invasion Act is activated, for example. Well, yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. When it was first brought up, when I first noticed this in the last few days, these calls for an army of the EU, it took me back to the Brexit days, if you want to call it that. Part of the argument for leaving the EU was, and this was coming from the likes of Farage at the time, I recall. It's a fair time ago now, but I do remember one of the reasons being that the UK would be forced to hand over its army to some sort of European Union army or something like that. But a lot's happened. A lot's happened since then. Personally, I don't want our country to have any part in this whatsoever. And we know that, you know, I've got no love for Putin. Zelensky's cancelled elections. There are actual fascists in the Ukraine army. We're talking about neo-Nazis. The Azov battalion, for example. I can't get behind someone like that any more than I can get behind Putin. And as always, it's the civilians who suffer. And we see billions and billions of pounds and dollars and euros going towards war when they should be used to make society better in every respective country. Yeah, Revolutionary Army would be better. Obviously. Sure, I'll stand up and sing the Internationale or something. And now, at this point in the show, we always like to pause and stand up to sing the Internationale. No, not really, of course. Porpy, great to see you in the chat as well. Yeah, a lot of Azov was wiped out in 2022. Of course, that was cited in Putin's original so-called reasons for invading Ukraine when this first kicked off, was to eliminate fascists. And they are total lunatics, yeah, quite right. Can't argue with that. Yeah, anyway, I'll keep you up to speed with that story before we linger too long on it. Of course, the talks are still ongoing, so watch this space for updates here on My Left Eye. I'm just going to move on to another topic now. Please make sure you've hit thumbs up on the stream as well, people. So what should we get on to next? I think we'll get on to other affairs in the UK. Yeah, I'm going to start with Rachel Reeves and this expenses business and lying on the CV, and then we got on to Keith's claim that he's followed through on this election pledge of creating 2 million more NHS appointments.
No one ever raised any concerns about my expenses when I worked for Halifax Bank of Scotland. I submitted, had processed and had my expenses signed off in the proper way, as you would expect, and no issues were ever raised during my time at Halifax Bank of Scotland.
Did you see that? Did you?
Yes, I did see that. I did see that. So the BBC have done a bit of investigating, apparently, And I don't think this is the latest sort of Kia's Beers dead cat news story or anything like that. We're talking about the Chancellor of the Exchequer here, who appears to be vastly underqualified, and according to this investigation may have been proven to be just that. So where did this all begin? Rachel Reeves made a claim that she'd been working as an economist at a bank for close to a decade, and then she changed her story not once, but twice or 3 times, or thrice if you prefer. Shaving it down from a decade to, oh no, it was maybe 8 years, well 7, well it was 6 really, 5.5. But also questions have been brought up about expenses, and how apparently expenses were used to fund a lifestyle instead of being legitimate claims for work expenses. Also her role, while she claims to have been an economist, many people have pointed out that she was the manager of a call centre. Which would make her vastly underqualified, which I'm sure that you'll agree with me, people. Since she became Chancellor, she's proven just that. We've got another clip, just a bit more from that interview where she was in the dressing up box going around a building site. Look at these houses that we're building to please the landlordism that we're supporting. Please don't mention social or council housing. No, we just want to encourage more private profits. But while I'm here, you could ask me about my expenses. That's pretty much the background of the context of where this interview took place. So let's see what's happening, people.
No one ever raised any concerns.
Not that one.
Framework supply chains, we try and reuse it. Unlike most of them, we try and use it.
There's a lot of houses here. No one ever raised any concerns about my expenses when I worked for Halifax Bank of Scotland. I submitted, had processed and had my expenses signed off in the proper way, as you would expect, and no issues were ever raised during my time at Halifax Bank of Scotland.
Well, they've been raised now, that's for sure. And I'll go into that investigation after we watch the rest of this clip.
I don't know what they are saying, and of course none of them have gone on the record, but I was never questioned, never asked.
There's literally a BBC article about it. I don't know if she, has the internet or anything, as well as this being all over social media for weeks now. I don't know what they've said. Trying to claim ignorance. Yeah, of course, you've been hiding under a rock.
To pay back any expenses. These concerns were never raised with me during the time that I worked for Halifax Bank of Scotland, and I'm really proud of the work that I did, working both as an economist at the Bank of England and later for Halifax Bank of Scotland.
That's bollocks.
I worked as an economist at the Bank of England between 2000 and 2006 before going to work in financial services for Halifax Bank of Scotland, and I'm really proud of the work that I did before I became an MP. But in the end, people are going to judge me on the job that I'm doing now as Chancellor of the Exchequer to grow the economy and put more money in the pockets of working people.
Which you're not doing. You're doing the exact opposite of that, Reeves. My God. Where is it? Not used this one for a while. If I can find it. Yeah, thanks to the agitator for that last scene there. That's another great one from Agitate for Change, if you want to give them a follow. But unfortunately for Rachel, the whistleblowers say otherwise. Let's see exactly what they've been saying. So it does look like she was lying through her teeth in that interview. According to this article, a detailed 6-page whistleblowing complaint was submitted with dozens of pages of supporting documents, including emails, receipts and memos. It accused Reeves and 2 other managers, one of whom was her boss, of using the bank's money to fund a lifestyle with spending on events, taxes and gifts, including for one another. The BBC say they've seen the documents and spoken to more than 20 people, many of whom were former colleagues. So you've got 20 people, call them witnesses if you like, dozens of documents, emails, receipts and memos, as it says there, versus the word of Rachel Reeves. But what happened at the time? It says the complaint led to an internal investigation by the bank's risk department, which was then passed to internal audit, and it reviewed the allegations and concluded that they were substantiated, that is, substantiated, and there appeared to be evidence of wrongdoing by Reeves and her 2 colleagues, according to a senior source with direct knowledge of the investigation. What they've not been able to establish is what happened next and whether the bank ever reached a formal conclusion. So it looks like she seems to have gotten away with it back in the day. And clearly she passed the Labour Party vetting process as a consequence. We've heard what Reeves had to say, but they've done a bit of investigation into the CV, which I mentioned as well, and Reeves exaggerated the length of time she'd worked at the Bank of England. She said the best part of a decade. However, her LinkedIn profile said she only worked there for 6 years, from September 2000 to December 2006. But a year of that was spent studying at the London School of Economics. It's been established that she left the bank in March 2006, meaning that the time she spent working there amounts to 5.5 years. Quite a lot less than a decade. A spokesman for Reeves confirmed that the dates on her LinkedIn were inaccurate and said it was due to an administrative error by the team. Her profile on the social media site has been updated. Yeah, right. More like she got found out. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Can we be expected to buy that? That's awful. You can even just tell by the way that she talks, which becomes increasingly nauseating the more I have to do it, I've got to say, people. Let's see what you're saying in the chat. Yeah, it's preposterous. Quite correct. Super Tiny, how you doing? Welcome back, great to see you. And I don't believe her for one moment, no. I think she'll be gone by the end of the year. Perhaps Starmer as well. There's no sense of solidarity where Labour's concerned at the moment. They're just as bad as the Tories. They're all neoliberal, right-wing careerists is the main word. They'll sell each other out at the drop of a hat. We know that they're prepared to undermine their colleagues to try and further their careers, or even just to, in the case of the backstabbing of Corbyn, to proceed with a neoliberal ideology that won't help out the country, won't help out ordinary people, but they can make a few quid off of it and probably end up with a peerage anyway, so what do they care? They only care about themselves, they're only trying to line their own pockets, they're only trying to look after their own careers, so it wouldn't surprise me when you look at how bad Labour are doing in the polls, especially that they would be stabbed in the back or in the front if Jess Phillips is involved, of course. And if we get to 2026 with Rachel Reeves still as Chancellor, I'd be quite surprised. She certainly won't last until the next election. I don't think Starmer will either. That's one way of putting it quite succinctly there, Odin, yeah. It's a shit show and no paddles or canoes in sight. Okay, Super Tiny, we'll blame the auto text for anything that's taken out of context. That's one excuse that Rachel Reeves can't use, of course. Alright people, up next, just a quick comment on this 2 million extra NHS appointments pledge. Labour have marked their own homework. Starmer sent his homework to Reeves, she sent it back and it all checks out. Oh, where's Streeting actually, in this case? Let's see what's happening here, people. It says the government has met a key election pledge to deliver it's not Wednesday, but I couldn't resist. To deliver 2 million extra NHS appointments in England in its first year, the Prime Minister has said. Like I said, he's marked his own homework. Apparently the target was achieved between July and November last year, when there were almost 2.2 million more elective care appointments compared to the same period in 2023, the government said, but there could be more under the surface. First of all, I have to say thanks a lot to Graham Turner in the chat for the super chat there. Thank you very much, brother. Let's give that a like in the chat. Thanks again, Graham. It's been great to have you on the stream tonight. And a gifted membership from Super Tiny as well. Awesome stuff. Thank you very much, people. You Brew Crew legends. No, really do appreciate all of the support on the channel. Where was I? Just with this article now. So one factor, that period was affected by doctor strikes, which would have suppressed the number of available appointments. Now, this is the main bit when it comes to the crunch. He's not talking about 2.2 million people who have actually physically gone to a general practitioner and had an appointment, or gone to a hospital and had an appointment. He's talking about 2 million invitations to an appointment. Now, people might not be able to attend them for one reason or another. They might be cancelled by the practice itself. However, he's assuming that every single invitation that's been put out there has been agreed to, has been RSVP'd yes, and that then they've gone through to see the doctor or the nurse, or gone to a hospital appointment. But that's not the case. So it's moving the goalposts, essentially. Yes, Elwyn, welcome to the Brew Crew, to the members list. Hope you enjoy your perks. So Streeting's thrown his 2 cents in. Good old Wesley. That's what's he had to say. He says there's still a hell of a lot more to do, but he denied the figure of 2 million more appointments was affected by the previous Conservative government's policies. He says, look at the size of waiting lists overall, it's come down 4 months in a row, that's progress, but there's still a lot more to do. Well, they haven't really, you've just cooked the books. And here's the thing, Starmer says that he's not going to put any more investment into the NHS until he's certain that the money's going to be managed well. So what does that mean? Essentially, he needs to line up with Wes Streeting as well, as many private healthcare firms as he can, to be able to receive these millions in public money. That's going to be the incentive for them. That's how they're going to sell out the NHS. So he needs to get them all lined up before they can start to siphon money out the public purse like the leeches that they are. And these companies, of course, treat people not as patients but as customers. If you ever think it'd be such a wonderful thing if, by some miracle as it were, or suspension of the laws of physics, but let's say overnight, that all diseases, ailments, viruses, and so on were cured. The only thing that people outside of having accidents, etc., that would die of would be old age. You might think that'd be a good thing. Oh no, not Big Pharma. They wouldn't like that at all. That'd be awful. people being ill or infirm, they see as a good thing. Because over in the States, people are being charged hand over fist for even basic medical goods such as, and essential medical goods such as insulin, which shot up in price through Big Pharma. But that's just one example. There's so many others. But if you cured diabetes overnight, then they wouldn't like that. They wouldn't like that. They need to keep people on as many forms of medication, as many drugs as possible to keep the money flowing in. So just back to this article, I'll have a quick skim through one, read through the whole shebang. Another thing worthy of note here is that latest figures show 73% of A&E patients were treated or assessed within 4 hours, which is well short of the 95% target and key benchmark of accident and emergency performance. The numbers of A&E patients enduring long waits went up in January, with nearly 160,000 waiting longer than 4 hours for a bed to be found after a decision to admit them, many on chairs or trolleys. And of course we've heard so many stories about people waiting in corridors, being treated in corridors, on the floor, in lifts. The government's announcement on its election pledge comes as a report by the King's Fund think tank highlighted inefficiency in the NHS system in England. It includes a poll of more than 1,600 people who'd used the health service in the previous year. So unfortunately, we're not going to buy that one either, Keith. Doesn't look like you've met the pledge. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Let's see what we're thinking in the chat. Yeah, lies, damn lies and statistics. Fake statistics in this case. And it's back to, this is one thing I hate about headlines. And this started for me during COVID, where a news story is that a politician has said something or claimed something or whatnot. That's yeah. Essentially, they're just admitting to being the soapbox that a politician can stand on. And I recall it coming on the TV so many times during COVID. Matt Hancock says, Boris Johnson says, such and such says, Dominic fucking Cummings says. As though what they say is gospel, basically. You can say any old bollocks and put the word says or says at the end of it, and people will take it as gospel. Looks like a few of you are on the biscuits there, enjoying a biscuit with your Solidari-Tea. Why not? I'm quite partial to a imitation supermarket brand chocolate hobnob myself. Trotsky. Oh, are you doing the Alexis Sale thing? The Trotsky biscuits, Garibaldi. And you've got your pecan Trotsky assortments as well. Chapata moustache. Well, before we get sidetracked, did of course have a clip of Lexus Sale on a live stream recently. Still going strong. He was showing support for Andy Feinstein in the clip we saw. But anyway, that's all for that NHS story there. No sale, Keith. No sale. Haha. Okay, people. On to the Middle East now, and Gaza, of course. Let's keep up to speed with events. Of course, I've not been with you on a live stream since Saturday. I was clock watching quite a bit on Saturday morning as the hours counted down towards 12 o'clock, which was of course this deadline set by Trump. Apparently things were getting pretty tense, but Hamas did come through on their end of the bargain and release 3 prisoners in exchange for hundreds more prisoners, that is Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli prisons. Because the ceasefire talks looked like they could have been going off the rails for a while. That was a relief. So we're going towards phase 2 now. We'll have to see what happens with that. Of course, Israel have been breaking the ceasefire terms for quite a while now. Recently, a Hamas official was killed in Lebanon, which not only breaks the Lebanese ceasefire agreements, it also violates the agreement with Hamas as well. Pretty shocking. Of course, people have continued to protest all across the world in support of Gaza, in support of Palestine, calling for this ceasefire to be sustained and for an end to the occupation that's been going on for decades now, of course. But also protests have continued to take place and continue to escalate in Israel itself, in Tel Aviv. Even Israeli citizens themselves waking up to the fact that Netanyahu doesn't really give a hot damn about the hostages. Thank you very much for throwing up the Palestine flags in the chat. Great to see, as always. Solidarity with Palestine. And there have been a series, of course, of large protests in the UK. And I've got a great clip from the most recent demonstration in London, which I really hope you'll enjoy. And this is a gentleman who needs no introduction here on My Left Eye.
Thank you everyone for being here today. There are many days to remember, but many of us here can never forget the 15th of February 2003, when millions of us marched on the streets of London to try and bring peace to Iraq and stop that particular war. And we're still here today demanding peace and justice for the Palestinian people and an end to the bombardment and the war in Gaza. We're also asserting, and this is important, our right to be on the streets of London, our right to protest, our right to make our voices heard. And to those people, not just here on the streets of London today, but on the streets of many towns and cities all over the country, who week in, week out, organise demonstrations, collect signatures on petition, collect money to send to Gaza to give aid. They are also absolutely part and parcel of this amazing movement all across the land of solidarity with the Palestinian people. We're not going away, we're not stopping, we'll carry on as long as it takes. And when President Trump announced that he would prefer it if Gaza population was entirely removed to various other countries, and said the people there cannot live there any longer, and he wants to turn it into a Riviera. For once, this woke up the entire region, and every single government all across the Middle East have rejected this plan, as indeed the whole world must reject this plan. The Palestinian people cannot, will not, and never will be moved away from Gaza. And I contacted my good friend Mustafa Barghouti of the Palestine National Initiative, who's spoken at many of our demonstrations, and you'll see him quite often on Al Jazeera and other channels, explaining what is happening, how the West Bank is being bombed, and so many other atrocities are going on. So I asked him to send a message that I could read today, and his reply to Donald Trump is simply this: no person in the world can enforce ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. All free people of the world must unite against the genocide, ethnic cleansing, and the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. Thank you, Mustafa, for your sensible and wise words.
Sensible and wise words indeed. Apologies, people. It's not often I interrupt the Right Honourable Member for North Islington, Jeremy Corbyn. Of course, just to confirm, as per comments in the chat, a Jaffa cake is in fact a cake, and I think it was von Nakarizer who pointed out there was a famous court case over the issue as to whether or how much VAT it would pay, and they actually made a massive Jaffa cake, a huge one, as an exhibit in the court case. The difference between a biscuit and a cake is when it perishes, a biscuit goes soft, whereas a cake hardens. And they left the Jaffa cake, the enlarged one, out for some time, and it did in fact harden, which won them the case. So just to quickly clarify that, I know that was a bit of an aside, but yeah, I don't think identity politics comes into that one, people. Always have a great chat here on the Brews at 10 on my left eye.
And whilst the ceasefire still holds and is obviously welcome, and we want it to hold and we want it to become permanent, one must remember the issues have not yet gone away. Firstly, the ICJ ruling was very clear. It isn't just about the attack on innocent people in Gaza, it is also about the illegal occupation of the West Bank and the illegal settlement policy in the West Bank and the continued bombardment of the West Bank. And so our demands today are also to end the occupation and to follow international law. And so this war has demonstrated to the whole world the horror and the power of guided weapons, of computer systems that can kill people, and shown how the West, with all its weapons, can destroy. But it's also shown that people are defiant and will not go away and will not disappear. And so our message today is this: that as the Palestinian people go back to what was once their homes and see piles of rubble and the sewage flowing in the streets and the dead bodies being discovered underneath it and the mental scars that will never go away, they will attempt to rebuild their homes. They'll do it with hope, they'll do it with love, they'll do it with affection, and the next generation of Palestinian children will also write poetry and play music. And they will inspire the rest of the world. Our solidarity must never stop. Our demonstrations will go on as long as the occupation goes on, because we are forever friends of the Palestinian people. And I conclude with the words from the beautiful poem by Rifat. It's held here in front of me now. If I must die, then you must live to tell the world my story. Let us tell the world the story of the heroism of the Palestinian people and never end our solidarity with them. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic as always from the great man, the Right Honourable Member of Parliament for North Islington, Mr. Jeremy Corbyn. I'm not just on the importance of how we have to continue to show support for Palestine, for Gazans, for people in the West Bank, how the right to protest is being decimated by our governments, and it is important to stand up and fight for that as well. Whether you're on the streets to support Palestine, whether you're on the streets to fight for your rights as a worker, whether you're on the street to fight for your rights as a citizen, whether you're on the streets to fight for your rights against oppression, whether it be based on your race, your gender, your sexuality, whatever it might be, the power of protest is undeniable, and also for governments to try and remove that right, that God-given right from us, is absolutely abhorrent. And the Tories were hell-bent on taking us out of the European Convention on Human Rights. I'm someone who's protested and demonstrated many, many times in my life, even to the point of arrest and conviction, and I will do so again. Absolutely. Thanks for throwing up the Palestine flags again in the chat. And yes, so long as your protests are non-violent, then there is no harm in taking direct action. Please do let us know if you've been on any recent demonstrations or protests. There's been obviously a lot to demonstrate about recently. It's always good to hear your stories in the chat, or if you're watching back on a replay. And I'll just be sticking on the subject of protest for another few moments. I've got a great article queued up here from the Canary, who reported on something that seems to have flown under the radar. With a lot going on today, certainly the BBC themselves haven't reported it, but the headquarters in London were subject to non-violent direct action today at Portland Place, which is where the headquarters are. Let's just see what's happening. If you're not familiar with the Canary, please do check them out as well, of course. So I hope you can see that okay. There was a spraying action, as you can see there, at BBC HQ. Palestine action, responsible for this demo. You can see a wider shot there. At the front of the building, sprayed red, of course, to represent the blood spilled in Palestine at the hands of US-backed Israel. And the BBC's role in whitewashing Israeli atrocities through its partial and biased coverage, the article says. I'm just going to reduce the size there slightly. There we go. Yeah, I do use the BBC as a source of articles. A lot of stories get broken first or very early on the BBC, but that's not to say that I'm not a critic of the way that they do report certain stories, especially where Palestine's concerned. The language and the syntax, for example. We've mentioned many times how in headlines Palestinians die, they say died as if they just randomly dropped dead, but Israeli soldiers are killed. Very clear difference in language there. But also, whenever they interview anybody who criticises Israel, the reporters will immediately jump in and, almost as if they're there as Israeli spokes themselves, point out that Israel deny whichever particular allegation is being mentioned in the story. Of course they're going to deny it. Of course they're going to deny the atrocities that they're committing. That goes without saying, because they're just conceited liars as well as oppressive genocidal maniacs as well. So there's no need to interject. And isn't it strange, people, how if anyone is on the news and they happen to be speaking the same way about Vladimir Putin, that happens without interruption? They just nod along. So it says today's actions mark the second time Palestine action has targeted the BBC since the onset of Israel's genocidal response to the AI AXA flood operation, a return necessary due to the BBC's deeply entrenched complicity in enabling Israeli apartheid and genocide is a deeply entrenched issue. The BBC's repeated failure to provide a platform for Palestinian voices or to accurately represent the scale of Israel's violence has played a critical part in shaping public perception, allowing the continued suffering and displacement of Palestinians to go largely unchallenged in the media. Another quote says, "The BBC's biased reporting isn't a simple case of poor journalism, it's a matter of life and death. By downplaying Israeli war crimes, the BBC is complicit in the genocide unfolding in Gaza," said a spokesperson for Palestine Action. This isn't just about the news, it's about the role of the media in shaping global complicity. The BBC has blood on its hands, and today's action is part of a wider campaign to hold them accountable. We will not stand by as the BBC sanitises genocide. The corporation's editorial choices, whether intentional or the result of institutional bias, have aligned it with Israel state's narrative of justification for its violent policies. Today the BBC's premises have been marked with a visual reminder of that which is well known in Palestine, that their blood marks the BBC's reporting. It says Palestine Action will continue to hold British institutions responsible for the roles they play in genocide and demands the BBC start reporting the truth about Palestine. Featured images there come from Martin Pope. It's a very effective and symbolic form of protest, a spraying action, similar to actions we see from Just Stop Oil, Youth Demand, for example. And in a similar fashion, this stuff generally just washes off, but it's very visually endearing, and yeah. I dare say we could see more of that to come from Palestine Action. There's been Palestine Action have protested in Manchester as well. Let us know if you're close to anywhere where they've been involved. Also, famously in the northwest at the Elbit's weapons parts manufacturers. Some of whom have been closed down. They've been occupied by Palestine Action and other groups as well. And I do have something slightly positive where protest is concerned as well to bring you up to speed with. Just one moment, people. Got this bookmarked here. This is something I wanted to talk about on the Sunday stream yesterday. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to bring you the stream yesterday. Just wait for this to load up. I'm sure quite a few viewers this evening will be aware that there are several climate protesters, of course, currently serving at His Majesty's pleasure, as it were. And many of them were convicted and imprisoned by the same judge, Lord Wolney. However, as we can see here on Twitter, always Twitter, never X, this is from Defend Our Juries. Lord Wolney was sacked on Friday, Valentine's Day no less. Original story comes from Byline Times. So the Home Office confirmed that Wolney, who was appointed by Alexander Boris de Fafel Johnson, will leave government. As those jailed following his report last May awaits the outcome of an appeal, of course, there's an appeal for several. This is very unprecedented in legal terms. Climate protesters making an appeal to have their sentences quashed or massively reduced. We've seen some outrageous sentencing lately, including 5 years for Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil co-founder Roger Hallam, for example. So it says today, that was on the 14th, the Home Office finally announced the sacking of Lord Wolney and the axing of his role as independent advisor on political violence and disruption. His responsibilities will be transferred to a new expanded commissioner for counter-extremism as part of a wider reorganisation on how to protest and extremism are monitored within the Home Office. His departure raises further questions about the mass jailing of political opponents of the oil and gas arms industries he represents, since his May 2024 report, which called for members of Just Stop Oil and Palestine Action to be treated as organised criminals. More than 50 have been imprisoned, some for up to 5 years, as I just mentioned. The Court of Appeal judgment reviewing the sentences of Lord Wolney is expected within weeks. Of course, I'll keep you up to speed with that. A spokesperson for the Free Political Prisoners campaign, which had been calling for his sacking since September, said it was a grave error of judgment on the part of this government to allow an oil and arms industry lobbyist to drive the agenda on silencing those holding those same industries to account. Many peaceful people are filling our overcrowded prisons as a result. This doesn't end with Wolney's sacking. The immense damage he has done to democratic freedoms must be repaired. Those silenced and jailed on his recommendations must be freed, and it says the corrupting influence of many other industry lobbyists on the courts must be stopped. So you can go to defendourjuries.org if you want to find out more about that. They're a great organisation as well. They've been in attendance at a lot of the big trials, the Royal Courts of Justice, other places where members of Palestine Action, Just Stop Oil and so on and so forth have been on trial. So that's a bit of a positive step in the right direction. But he should have never been there in the first place, you know. It's just, some corruption is just so obvious, it beggars belief. The gall, the absolute neck of these people. To think that there isn't a conflict of interest between someone, you know, who's lobbied by oil and arms industries, that he obviously won't be biased in his judgments or in legislation that he wants to influence or help to create. No farmers in jail. No, that's a good point. Of course, the farmers were out protesting against recently in the tractors, and of course, I'm sure that even people who run that protest themselves would have tried to criticise groups like Just Stop Oil in the past for minor disruption, trying to use the, you know, the same old rhetoric, shall we say. The same old debunked rhetoric, if I'm being slightly more accurate. Yeah. Would have been a few hypocrites down there, as well as a few tax dodgers as well. Let me know what you think about that one in the chat, or if you're watching back on a replay. Just another reminder, please, people, make sure you've hit the thumbs up button on the stream. And give us a follow on social media as well, at MyLeftEye UK, available on Blue Sky, Mastodon and Twitter for now. Going to be bringing the stream to a close quite shortly, but please do stick around. I'm going to see if we can redirect into anybody. And I'll just remove the chat for a moment whilst give another thanks to all of the members on the channel. Thank you very much everybody who's contributed with gift memberships tonight, really do appreciate that support. Legendary Brew Crew, I'll be adding the new members' names to this list of incredible supporters on the channel right after the stream. And if you'd like to join the people on this roster, it's just 99p. Lots of perks for you to enjoy, so please do hit the button if you want to know more about those. Static emojis, exclusive content, early viewings, that sort of thing. Ligella, thank you very much for another 5 gifted memberships. Solidari-Tea, great stuff. Another Brew Crew legend. Thanks so much, it's great to see our community growing and expanding together. Thanks again. I'll be back with you with another live stream on Wednesday for PMQs. Unfortunately, I won't have the time to bring you a Brews at 10 tomorrow, but I'll definitely be back on Wednesday, so I look forward to seeing you all then. Yeah, it's been great to catch up with everybody this evening as well. Yeah, nice one, Nigella. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, so there's nobody's streaming live at the moment. There is an upcoming All Shorts stream that I've redirected you into, so you can feel free to head over there and set yourself a notification reminder. Well, whilst I'm singing people's praises, thanks again to Kevin Logan and Helena at No Justice MTG for recent raids and shoutouts as well, if you're watching. Thanks for all your comments in the chat as well, people, really do appreciate it. Okay, that just about wraps it up, people. But I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. I hope, for PMQs, initial reaction and analysis. But until then, take care of yourselves, everybody. And my left, I'll be seeing you soon. Free Palestine.
And trust me, I say this with all humor, if American democracy can survive 10 years of Greta Thunberg scolding, you guys can survive a few months of Elon Musk.